office, and this is what the party primaries that ODM has kicked off are about. And on the front page of the papers of the dailies this morning is that row that jolted the ODM primaries in Busia and Bungoma. Let's begin with you, Ndegwa. Yes. What lessons can the big political parties learn from the Busia fiasco?
Allow me to begin from where this mass has stopped. And he mentioned something very interesting that is in our constitution, and that is chapter 6. And I think Kenyans, I agree with him, we need to start deleting or amending that chapter to make sure that we don't have anything that gives the directions on how leadership should be viewed. But this, we suffered a big blow in 2012 when people went to court in respect to the current president's and the deputy president's status to run for presidency, while they still had the matters they had at the ICC. You remember the court said that because of the presumption of innocence, then they could not be barred to run for the presidency and the deputy presidency. That is when the rain started beating us, and that is the case that watered down the intent, the aspirations, and the norms Kenyans wanted to achieve when they enacted chapter 6 of the constitution. The reason being, we were told that unless you have been proved guilty, the chapter 6 does not apply to you.
Innocent until proven guilty.
But the question is, the framers of our constitution, what threshold did they want to place on chapter 6? Was it the threshold of being proved guilty beyond any reasonable doubt? Was it to be on the balance of probability, or was it to be on mere perception? We still have not been able to come up with clear definition of the threshold. And that's what you can see, even in the party primaries, leaders are doing all sorts of maneuvers, which by large extent are actually outside the confinement of the law, and they end up getting away with it. We have seen the governor, it's called the guy, it's called
Obando, yes.
We have seen what he did, and he's going to be a candidate. We have seen what Elizabeth Ogoro did. She's now a candidate in another political party. The question is, when shall we ever get leadership that is defined by the confinement of what people expect in respect to chapter 6. And I think that, again, it's one of where the Kenyans needs to debate upon.
The question would be, where does the buck stop? Who now should ensure that chapter 6 is implemented in all the political prospects we
were in court on Wednesday for the Munya's case. Munya has been sued in Meru High Court by a petitioner, and the petitioner is saying that Munya needs not to be nominated, even cleared by the IBC, because he has a lot of unanswered questions from the Auditor General reports. And that cuts across all the governors. So the court was asking us, whose responsibility is it to implement chapter 6? Because when the members of parliament went to legislate, and that was done by the 10th parliament, they removed the obligations of checking on chapter 6 from courts, and they placed it on the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And they said, and that is the jurisprudence in Kenyan laws, that unless you exhaust the available mechanisms that is available and has been placed upon on the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, you cannot rush to court to challenge one's candidature on grounds of ethics and corruption. We all know what Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is made of, and the extent in which they can go to investigate these matters, especially when it touches on politicians. The day you touch on politicians, the next day Wabukala, the chairman, will be out. The two other commissioners will also be out. You'll be told Wabukala never gave audited accounts of his church, and everybody else will have some issues. So the 10th parliament made it clear that it would become so much difficult to implement chapter 6. And this is why, even connecting it with the question that you put, issues of party primaries, we are going to have a big challenge because our politics is defined by hooliganism that is not checked by law, is defined by mediocrity that is not checked in law, is defined by he who shouts most and the persons who has the baddest malpractices in terms of contesting for that particular post.
Right. I mean, and as it is, with regard to Busia, we've seen the ODM disciplinary committee put Ojaamong and Otuoma on the spot, telling them that they will be watched, that no violence will be condoned on their part. But Dismas, considering what happened, what really can political parties learn, and how is this precedence going to reflect on ODM leader Raila Odinga?
Well, you know, when you look at the figures coming from Busia, just on the face of it, you can't help but see, you know, I don't know, people say daylight robbery. Because when you look at the Ojaamong win, it's anchored only on two constituencies. That's Teso South and North. And it's very interesting that whereas in other constituencies, the average voter turnout is around 40%, for those two constituencies on average is 80%. And all of a sudden, is now declared winner. Because at some stage, 90% of the results were out and Dr. Otuoma was leading. And then there was a close session of about 11 hours, and then Ojaamong emerges as the winner. Obviously, there's no way in Kenya you can have that kind of voter turnout in a party primary. And even looking at Teso South, one of the constituencies where he got, where there was about 77% voter turnout, the MP, Mary Emases, is a Jubilee member of Parliament. So you would actually assume that most of the registered voters there are Jubilee members, not ODM. But you see now they came out in truckloads and they came and voted for Ojaamong. And you know, really, this is, even if you're a layman, you can actually see there is a mischief. And there are some sentiments that one needs to take into active consideration. Because our old governor, by the name Ojaamong, when he was doing a media conference in the morning, he used some unsavory language on Otuoma, because he said, this is a cow that will be fattening for slaughter. How can you refer to your competition in that manner? And then, of course, you know, there is fake news and alternative facts associated with him. That's all, in as much as it's part of propaganda, which is a very key strategy for anybody to win an election, but we must pay attention to that. And I think the lesson for Mr. Raila Odinga, because, you know, we are told that we have a disciplinary committee within ODM, you have an elections born within ODM, and anybody who's been around politicians knows that this is a special purpose vehicle. The person running ODM is Raila Odinga. Nobody will take a decision without consulting Raila Odinga. And I like the way the people in Busia have come out. They told Raila Odinga in black and white that if you are going to manipulate this election, we are not going to take it without a fight. We are going to fight. And it's important for Raila Odinga to let people express their will. If they want Otuoma as the next governor, Raila Odinga cannot impose or spit Ojaamong based on the fact that he used to be his PA, he used to manage his business and probably their friends. He must let the will of the people prevail. And if Raila Odinga wants to force any candidate, and as we are from history, in the previous two elections, when he has tried to force candidates on the populace, at the end of the day, there is a voter apathy. So if he's looking for a nice turnout in Busia for the next presidential candidate, he must let the people's will come out. And the fines that were imposed on Governor Obado, over 2 million Kenyan shillings, an MCA will tell you that's peanuts. If you go to the story from Bungoma, 2 million for a governor is peanuts. When you engage in violence, there's one of the bodyguards shoots at Governor Joe. So there's violence, property has been destroyed, there's even potential death, and all that you can be told to pay is a fine of 2 million.
What would you expect? What fine would you expect?
For me, you know, the purpose of a fine, as Lawyer Ndego would indicate, is to be very prohibitive so that you don't engage in that thing alone. So now everybody within ODM knows that I'll cause as much violence as I want, but on the worst case scenario, it's going to be 2 million bob. I would have expected them to impose a penalty of even 50 million or 100 million so that it can be a lesson to any other person who wants to engage in violence or even expel him from the political party. Because you see, you have Governor Joe going to Migori, and Obado, now it's been confirmed, he was the architect of the violence, and then you're only given 2 million bob. When you look at these governors, you tell him to pay a fine of 2 million bob, he'll ask his personal assistant to go get the money from the trunk of his car. So that's nothing really to worry. And we must have very serious penalties to bar these people. And also for Governor Joe, when he went to Migori, in as much as you're going for a political rally and you're the deputy party leader, you are going to another governor's territory. So best practices and manners demand that you actually inform him in advance that I'll be coming to your part of the world, and you actually go to his office for a courtesy call, you do photo opportunities, and then you go do your rally.
I mean, this especially considering the controversy with the president going to the coastal region and Governor Joho taking a lot of, being very angry about the fact that he was not informed as the governor of the coastal region. But I'd like